Hello, and thank you again for coming to my slideshow series, the Gonzo Archive, where I will be discussing the subjects of my 50 years of photography. And on tonight's lecture, I will be covering the photographs that I took of the Christopher Street piers from the late 70s to the mid 90s along the West Side Highway, and giving you a brief explanation as to what I did and where I photographed. I found the piers to be a fun place to hang out, and here's a photograph of me enjoying a little jumping on the piers. You'll notice the rough wood structure. These are the original wooden piers as they were built. And here we have a photograph of the West Side Highway, West Street, from Christopher to about Charles Street, and you can see just how the neighborhood was around 1983 or so when this photograph was taken. And you can also see over here how crowded the Christopher Street Pier was at night. You'll see there's a whole number of people sitting on the pier at night, and people walking back and forth along the riverbank of the Hudson River. And on the sidewalk itself, you'll notice there's lots of people because there were any number of gay clubs there. You had Badlands, you had Sneakers, you had Ramrod, you also had porno theaters, restaurants. A lot of these small clubs and bars would come and go and disappear rather quickly. The porno theaters did not last long, but some of the other bars and clubs like Badlands, Sneakers, they lasted for years. They're all gone now, erased to market forces. And this gives you an idea of the pier, Pier 45, which was also known as the Christopher Street Pier, in relation to Christopher Street, the Meatpacking District, and Greenwich Village. Now, in 1825, they opened up the Erie Canal, which was a big engineering project to connect the Hudson River to the Lake Erie for trade and commerce. And in 1928, the first pier structure was built at Christopher Street. Christopher Street was basically a very large main street, and the pier was built to help bring a lot of the traffic from the Erie Canal into New York City. And this is the way the piers looked in the mid-80s. They were basically, once the structures had been torn down, the building itself had been torn down, they left the flat platforms over the river, and this became a wonderful place just to sit, hang out, schmooze, cruise, enjoy the weather, enjoy the clean air as it comes over the Hudson River. And in Greenwich Village itself, you had all kinds of bars, clubs, social places. This is Danny's, which was known as a chicken hawk bar, located on the corner of Washington and Greenwich. Greenwich and Christopher, on the corner of Greenwich and Christopher Street, my era. And this is the Meatpacking District at night. It would be empty, but there were all kinds of small clubs and bars that would pop up in the empty spaces that were happening because the meat processing plants were slowly beginning to leave the meatpacking area. And with all these empty spaces, you had a lot of fetish bars and fetish clubs opening them up at night. So you had a lot of traffic there at night for the gay fetish bars and clubs. Here we have the corner of Washington and Gansevoort Street at night. And this is the corner of Christopher and the West Side Highway. This is the old elevated West Side Highway. It was shut down in 1973 when a section of it collapsed. A portion of the highway collapsed, and the city decided, rather than fix it up and repair it, to eventually just tear the whole structure down. And on the corner, you'll notice the bar Badlands right over here. Badlands was a very popular gay bar. And you'll notice the enormous amount of traffic on the sidewalk. I mean, the sidewalk's just loaded with people just smoozing and cruising on the corner. And look at the car traffic going by. There's a huge amount of car traffic on Christopher Street, right there on the corner of Christopher and the West Side Highway. And on the other side, by the Hudson River, you'll notice even more people in cars along the riverbank enjoying a wonderful summer night on Christopher Street. It was a very popular area. Again, another picture of Christopher Street. Here we can see Badlands. You can see how large the crowd was waiting outside the bar, enjoying some fresh air. Across the street, even more people. People crossing the street. Cars packed and jammed on the street itself. And in the shadows here, you can just barely make out the structure of the Christopher Street Pier itself, Pier number 45, which was adjacent to Christopher Street and 10th Street and the West Side Highway. This is Weehawk Street. This is the street that's behind the Badlands and the Sneakers Bar. This is a one-block street, a small, tiny side street, located between Christopher and 10th Street. And this was also a very active area at night. Here you have a bunch of guys just shooting the breeze at night outside the clubs. This would be Sneakers right over here. And this would be 10th Street right over here. And behind me would be Christopher Street. So this is the way it was at night in the summer of the 1980s. Now, this is a little bit further on. You'll notice the West Side Highway has been torn down. So this is probably around 83, 84. And you'll still see a number of people outside the bar. It looks like they're waiting for the light to change so they can cross the street and head across the street into this area over here, which would be a nice area along the Hudson Riverbank to sit, schmooze, and enjoy the views of New Jersey. This is Charles Street, just above Christopher Street, looking south along the West Side Highway. Again, you can see the elevated West Side Highway. This photograph was probably taken late 70s, early 80s, before the highway was torn down. And you can see just how crowded the streets were with people walking up and down the streets. So here we are late at night, people just enjoying walking down the streets on the West Side Highway. Again, here's the West Side Highway. You'll see all the cars that are parked under it. And in the distance, you'll see the World Trade Center in all its glory. This was probably taken late 70s. And across the street, you'll notice cars are parked, trucks are parked along the riverbank. What was interesting about this area is that further down, you had a lot of shipping companies south of Christopher Street, and they had an enormous number of 16-wheeler tractor trailers. And the trucks would be parked either under the West Side Highway or alongside the West Side Highway. And those empty trucks became very popular for young kids to either have sex in, just to hang out in, or if it's a cold night to survive in. Sometimes kids would, if you didn't have shelter for the night, you could crash into an empty truck. No one would bother you there. All kinds of stories about that. But the empty trucks below Christopher Street were famous for people having sex and surviving in. And you can see here again the West Side Highway and some of those trucks, the Arrow trucks. And the West Side Highway was the domain of transgender hookers. You had trans prostitutes who were working the streets. This is one of them right here. And you can see the disrepair of the streets, the trucks where kids would have sex in, along the old West Side Highway. And here we have a couple of more young ladies of the night working the streets, sitting on the corner waiting for traffic to come by. They would basically sit there, and if a car slowed down and wanted to talk to them, they would lean into the car, discuss prices. If they could reach an agreeable terms, they would get in the car. The car would drive down the West Side Highway and disappear down a side street where they would finish the business at hand. And this photograph shows cars and men along the Hudson River bank, along the West Side Highway. So you have all these guys just walking around, cruising other guys in cars and trucks, just walking back and forth. Now on the left, you'll notice a chain link fence. This chain link fence was built to keep people out of the piers. But what happened was someone came by, cut the chain link fence, and there were gaps in the fence. So at night you would see men go through, push open the wire, go inside the piers to meet other men for sex. This is a view looking north along the West Side Highway. And you'll notice we service all cars, foreign and domestic. You had a lot of garages, motorcycle shops, repair shops, tire repair shops, all up and down the West Side Highway. This was a very heavy commercial area, industrial area. So you had a lot of heavy-duty businesses located along the West Side Highway, as well as gay bars and porno theaters. Again, another view of some of the street workers working the streets along the West Side Highway. And there you have regular street traffic, just guys walking back and forth from bars or clubs or just visiting along the West Side Highway. In the daytime, the piers were a really nice place just to hang out, cruise and schmooze, get some sunshine, get some daylight, get some fresh air, hang out with your friends. You can get some Chinese food, smoke a little something, drink a little beer, and just watch the water go by. Here's a couple of gentlemen play acting on the piers themselves. And the ship behind them was one of a series of Liberty ships that were permanently docked along Christopher Street. They were permanently docked because they were part of an educational system to teach merchant marines. The ships were basically schools for merchant marine. And those ships were permanently docked on the Christopher Street Pier. And you can see the cables that would permanently dock those ships while people schmooze and someone sits on the pier getting a little sunshine. In the distance, you'll see another one of the piers on Christopher. This is Pier 45, I believe. This is Pier 45 along the West Side Highway. And these are the structures as they appear. You'll notice all the windows are broken. So this building is shortly to be torn down. This was taken after 1983. You'll notice the West Side Highway is gone. This building will be next to be torn down. And here we have another view of the merchant marine ships that were permanently docked on the Christopher Street Pier. And on the waterfront itself, a bunch of people enjoying themselves. This guy over here has his shoes off and he's just sunning his feet, enjoying a lovely sunny day. People having a drink, people just enjoying the music. So it was just a wonderful place just to hang out and enjoy yourself on a wonderful Sunday afternoon. A little further down, rather a little further north, as you get close to the pier structure itself, you'll see the neighborhood is just full of gay men hanging out, schmoozing, cruising, talking to one another, sitting down, enjoying the sun, enjoying a drink. Notice a couple of beer cans right over here. So this was a good place for gay men just to hang out, just to sit, hang, schmooze, be yourself. You don't have to be afraid. You could be as however gay you wanted to be right there. Didn't matter. Nobody cared. And it was a wonderful place on a Sunday afternoon to sun yourself. You put your shorts on, you get a towel on the floor, and you could just sun yourself, get some ultraviolet light, get a nice little tan over there, show some skin, meet other people. And this gentleman here is flying a kite over the piers. There he is, pulling the strings on his kite, while someone behind him is getting a full tan on his back. You'll also notice that this gentleman has nipple rings. Nipple rings were, in the early 80s, late 70s, mostly a sort of a gay thing. You know, you saw a lot of gay men wearing gold nipple jewelry. That was an affectation that you would see primarily among the gay people of the village. Now it's a common thing. All the high school kids have it. But back then, it was a very gay sort of thing. And here are a couple of gentlemen on the piers. There's the merchant marine ships. And you'll notice the guys in shorts with various handkerchiefs dangling out of the back of their pockets. And this was a sort of a cruising code. If you went to the pier and you wanted to find a specific person who would do or want to do a specific sex act, you would have a handkerchief of a color or a shape that would tell people what you wanted to do. If it was on your right side, you wanted to do it. If it was on your left side, you wanted to have it done to you. And this is the way you would go there to find your gay interest for the night. So here we have the two gentlemen entering the piers, and you notice it's just loaded with men hanging, sitting, schmoozing, and showing their hankies on the pier on Christopher Street. So it was just a nice place just to hang out, be friendly, be yourself. The Christopher Street Piers was a very nice area just to be gay. Just go, be gay, be happy, be pleasant, enjoy yourself. And when the sun began to set, you know, you still had men sitting there. And here we have like twilight, and men are still outside along the riverbank, sitting, schmoozing, enjoying the fine weather. On a Sunday afternoon, the piers would just be loaded with people. Now, in this photograph, you can get to see just how decayed the wooden structures were on these piers. You can see they're basically just falling apart, disintegrating, but still strong enough just to be able to walk and sit and contemplate New Jersey, sit, cruise, schmooze, discuss things, discuss global politics. In this photograph, you can really see how badly disintegrating the piers were at this time and how crowded it would be on a Sunday afternoon. This photograph was taken in 1986. I know that because in the distance, you can see the Statue of Liberty covered in scaffolding. In 1986, they decided to repair the Statue of Liberty so it was covered in steel scaffolding. So I can date this photograph by the steel scaffolding covering the Statue of Liberty in the Hudson River on a Sunday afternoon with all these people on the piers enjoying the lovely day. And you can see just how decrepit the wood structure is along the piers here. Again, another photograph to show you the disintegrating structure of the piers, 1986. And you can see that the pier itself was just full of people. And this was Gay Pride Day, mid-1980s. And people would march down Fifth Avenue. They would end up in Greenwich Village. And this was a place where everyone who was in Pride March would go to, hang out, enjoy a wonderful day in last Sunday of June on Pride March Day. So the place would be just jam-packed with people on Pride March Day. It would be wall-to-wall people. Yeah, and on any Sunday afternoon, it was just a place where you can just hang out. Lesbian, gay, trans, whatever queerness you were, this is a place where you could bring your friends and just be yourself and just sit and hang out and enjoy the weather. This was also on Pride Day, a bunch of people playing on the piers at night. The moon was coming up, and everyone was just having a good time on the piers at night. So it was just a wonderful place to sit and schmooze and meet other people. And of course, every once in a while, the police would come by and make sure everything was okay. You'll see the cops here in a rather beat up police cruiser on Christopher Street. Badlands would be right over here, and people just hanging out in their cars, minding their own business, and the cops coming by just to see what's going on, what's happening, what's going on. Nothing going on, just a nice day. And as the sun sets in New Jersey, this would be the place just to go hang out. And you'll see just how pleasant it was on a Sunday afternoon or any evening just to go and sit and enjoy yourself on the riverbanks of the Hudson by Christopher Street. It's twilight, the sun is gone, sky's getting dark, but the street lights keep things active. This is a view a few blocks north. You can see the piers in the distance here, and of course cars parked along the Hudson River bank. They would have railroad ties along this section here to keep cars from going into the river. And this would be a place where you could bicycle, walk your dog, enjoy a nice night. World Trade Center in the distance. This is a view looking east. This would be 10th Street over here. Christopher Street would be over there. So here's a view of West Street at night, looking towards the east. The Hudson River would be directly behind me. "1983 Pride March," and here we are in front of Badlands, and you can see everyone's having a beer and enjoying the weather, and across the street you can still see the Christopher Street Pier structure still standing, but you notice the roof is gone. There's daylight here, so they're probably in the process of tearing this down. But everyone's just enjoying a beer in front of Badlands. And this gentleman is showing his nipple piercings and all of his buttons and patches. 78 Ramrod, Heritage of Pride, and showing the nipple piercings. Nipple piercings were a very popular thing among certain gay people in Christopher Street at the time. It was something that you would see mostly on gay people. A lot of tattooists and people in the tattoo culture didn't like nipple piercings and piercings in general because it was considered to be too gay. I remember listening to certain people who were organizing various tattoo events, and they said, well, you know, we don't want to get the piercing people in here. They're just too gay for us. So there were certain stores on Christopher Street that would sell, you know, tiny little gold barbell jewelry, very elegant stuff. And here's something you don't see much anymore. The leather daddy look, the motorcycle look. Gentlemen wearing leather motorcycle chaps, torn Levi's, a chain metal motorcycle belt, and of course the motorcycle hat made popular by Tom of Finland. A lot of gay artists who would create all this esoteric gay art had all these characters who would dress up in, you know, motorcycle leather, heavy metal leather, daddy leather, and these gentlemen are emulating that look on Christopher Street. You really don't see that much anymore. It's sort of a retro look at this point, but that's the way it was back then. The torn Levi's and the chaps. And the piers themselves. Here we have a couple of gentlemen finding true love on the disintegrating Pier 45 just off Christopher Street. It's a Sunday afternoon, boats are going by, the wind is blowing, and love is in the air. Here you can see the structure of the pier itself. You can see at the far end of the pier there is somebody sitting there just looking out in the distance. And the pier itself, although it looks pretty whole and intact, it is in very bad shape. A lot of the windows are broken, a lot of the gates and doorways are smashed. As you can see, there are holes in the wall, and you can see the holes in the glass windows where someone smashed them, and a couple of gentlemen just walking back and forth along the top floor of Pier 45 on Christopher Street. And this is in broad daylight, and even then you'd have people just walking through, meeting other people inside these broken down, run down piers. Again, you can see the gentleman on the far left taking in sunshine on one of the lower sections of the pier. And over here, you can see a gentleman looking out the window on the second floor of Pier 45. So you would sit and you would look in and you'd see people sitting down, enjoying themselves. Here we have two people inside the pier, sitting down on the edge, enjoying themselves, hugging inside the pier. Here's a close look, a kiss inside the pier. So this would be just a nice area just to go in, be yourself, hug, kiss, find true love. Here we have a couple of gentlemen sitting down. There are some barges on the outside. The water looks nice. The sun feels good. The company is excellent. Now you'll notice in the background over here, another one of the piers, one of the old Christopher Street piers. This is in a very disintegrated shape. It was about to fall down. And you can see in this photograph, the structure itself is complete rot, complete decay. But even with all this damage and decay, if you look over here, you'll notice there are two gentlemen on the second floor enjoying their company with one another on the second floor of the abandoned piers off Christopher Street. Here they are, hugging and kissing inside one of the disintegrating rooms on the second floor of the piers. The piers were a very active place. Also, a lot of artwork was done in the piers. You had artists like Arthur Tress, Tava, Peter Hugar, David Warjanowicz, who would use the piers as a backdrop for their artwork. Again, here it is, the building, and you'll notice in the window, the two guys, and in this window, someone is sitting in the window, sunning his back in the disintegrating Christopher Street Pier building on a Sunday afternoon. What had happened was I had heard from various sources that they were going to tear down the piers, so I decided to get a camera loaded with color film and go and photograph the piers before they vanished forever. And in this photograph you can see a close-up of the gentleman sunning himself in the window. And in this photograph, a close-up of the two lovers finding true love on the second floor of the piers. A kiss among the piers. So for the first time in my life, I finally went inside the pier on a Sunday afternoon just before they tore them down. And as you can see, even though it's a Sunday afternoon and the piers are in bad condition, men are still going in to the piers to cruise and schmooze. And this gentleman is ready. I mean, he's just got his shorts on, a little bag with God knows what's in it, and I don't know what this gentleman is looking for, but they're all inside the pier on a Sunday afternoon. And these are some of the chambers and rooms that existed inside the Christopher Street Pier, Pier 45. And so at night, imagine going into these areas, pitch dark, no lighting, only whatever street light could come in through the windows, completely black, completely dark at night. Imagine going in there to find sex. Some of the rooms, some of the chambers, windows on the left. Now this photograph I enhanced a little bit to bring out some of the details, and here you have a gentleman sitting in the corner. I don't know what if he's lighting a cigarette or what. And on the far right, you'll notice another gentleman with his shirt off, waiting for Mr. Right. And this is how it was on a Sunday afternoon in daytime. Imagine what this would be like at nighttime, when it would be full of gay men going back and forth, trying to find something in the dark. And these are the piers on a Sunday afternoon. These are the main loading docks, loading area. You notice it's just a huge, enormous space. And this was basically so they could unload an entire shipload of boxes and crates and barrels and whatever they had on the ship would be unloaded, placed on this dock area to be placed on trucks and brought all over the city. And here's another view. Some of the doorways were left open, and that would allow daylight and fresh air in. And here we have a couple of gentlemen enjoying the fresh air as they sit and discover one another. Perhaps true happiness will occur. Here we go again. This is yet a gentleman staring out the window inside the Christopher Street Piers, Pier 45. A spiral staircase inside the piers. As I said before, a lot of gay artists would use these wide, open, abandoned areas to go in and be very creative. They would create sculptures, they would do photography, they would bring in models to pose. Some artists would actually take whole parts of the building and alter them, like cutting a hole in the wall, bringing in things to construct inside the piers. One of the doorways with a little bit of graffiti on the limb there. One of the staircases going down to the lower floors. I wish I could have gone in there with one of these night vision cameras and videotape what happened in the stairwell at night in the 1970s. And as I was taking pictures, as I was coming to the last frame in my camera, I saw this gentleman on a bicycle coming towards me. And as he came towards me, I realized he was naked on his bicycle. It was just the bicycle and his naked body, and I kept wondering, where the hell did he stash his clothes? So we chatted for a bit, and it was very fun talking to him. And he went to the window to enjoy the view of New York City from the window. And there's a close-up of the naked bicyclist. A funny little interlude on the Christopher Street Piers on a Sunday afternoon. The naked bicyclist. And here we have an article called Art in America. And this is about a book written by Jonathan Weinberg. He did a book called Pier Groups, Art and Sex Among the New York Waterfront. This concerns about all the art that was crafted inside these crumbling pier buildings from the 70s up to the 80s. And he covers the art legacy of the New York City piers. Photographers like Alvin Baltrop, Shelley Seacombe, Arthur Tress. He covers their artwork in this book. And as you can see here, this is the cover of the book. And that artwork that you're looking at is Day's End by Gordon Matta Clark. What he did was he cut a crescent-shaped void out of the wall of Pier 52. And so gay artists used this for many different mediums. I mean, there were sculptures made, photography, painting, conceptual art, all kinds of things happened inside the piers. And one of the photographs that was used in the book is one of my photographs. It's the naked bicyclist. The naked bicyclist is inside the book. And in 2019, Jonathan Weinberg gave a lecture at the Whitney Museum. And in his slideshow, he included one of my photographs, the naked bicyclist, in his lecture at the Whitney. It was very nice. He let me take a bow. And if you're interested in the book, it is available on Amazon.com. It's called Pier Groups, Art and Sex Among the New York Waterfront. And the writer is Jonathan Weinberg. Fascinating gentleman. Well, that brings an end to my slideshow and presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit about old New York City history from my slideshow. And if you enjoy my series, my photographic ramblings, please hit subscribe. If you have any questions about any of the photographs that you saw in this series, you can email me. I've included the email address on the top of the page. You can email me, and I'll try to answer any questions that you have. I will be continuing to add more and more lectures about more and more of the varied subjects that I photographed over the years. And I thank you for listening to my lecture. My name is Ephraim John Gonzalez, and I want to thank you for your time.